So hello and welcome. I'm Mike Bryce from Fuzi. My job is really simple today, and that is to provide some brief introductions to our fabulous panel here. We are quite lucky to get such a diversity across the sector, including Harry, our farmer. We've got a food waste expert here. We've got Amazon, some big corporates in this space, Amazon Web Services and Alibaba as well. So we have a pretty diverse group. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be quick fire. They've each got 10 minutes and they're going to present. But just as a way of introduction, obviously AI and big data is the topic of the decade for agriculture. It's a relatively new concept in this industry, and I think it largely fueled by effectively the measurability of things. In the past, we haven't had the types of devices, whether it's satellites or sensors in chemical sensors or microclimate sensing or robotics or machinery and so on. And the challenge in the sector has also always been to measure things, but also measure them reliably. And of course, AI and analytics and predictions, machine learning and so on, need data-hungry applications. So that's the fundamental starting point, and this is why we're really, with the growth in that measurability, if you like, and that connectivity, we're now seeing the growth of the development of AI-type applications in all across the industry. And I think we'll see a lot more of this as well. But without further ado, I just want to hand over to Eden, who's going to start us with a talk from Amazon Web Services.
Hi, everyone. My name's Eden Duthie, and I'm the ML lead for our professional services at Amazon Web Services. I manage the APAC region. So what I do is I help our customers build machine learning AI solutions to solve their problems, and I manage a team that does that. And just for those of you that don't know, Amazon Web Services is a fully owned subsidiary of Amazon.com, and we provide computing services over the internet. And so Amazon.com is one of our customers. So today I'm going to talk to you about Amazon's supply chain journey and then how that applies to food production and fresh produce as an example. So to start off our journey in 1997, we started off with the IPO. We had one single marketplace in the US and only two fulfillment centers, one on either the West Coast and East Coast of the US. So it was a relatively easy supply chain to manage, because if you're trying to work out which fulfillment centers to order goods to, you just have to choose which coast to go to. So it's a not too taxing problem. But then we fast forward to the end of 2018, and we have 13 different marketplaces around the world in approximately 17 countries, or more than 17 countries, and 185 or more fulfillment centers around the world. And then you see that we have servicing about 180 countries that actually have Amazon.com customers in it. And just to put it in perspective, that if just roughly on an order of magnitude that this translates to, so one fulfillment center services about 1 million customer orders over a 24-hour period, or has that capability. So that 185 fulfillment centers is roughly, you could say, is delivering an order to everyone in Australia 10 times a day. So every single human gets 10 packages a day it's a large scale, and it's quite a difficult problem in terms of to optimize and to manage this scale of supply chain. It's a bit of a lag on this. I jumped ahead. Yeah, so not only is the scale has increased quite a lot, but the customer experience that we're servicing as well. So started out in 1997 with the IPO. In 2000, we introduced Super Saver shipping, which was free shipping to orders over $100. Then in 2005, we introduced this Prime membership, which means it's a subscription service that members get. When it was first released, members get free 2-day shipping in 2005. And in 2000, it took roughly between 5 to 8 business days to get an order. So fast forward 5 years, it's free 2 days shipping. And then in 2010, we reduced the limit for Super Saver shipping to $25. And then in 2014, we introduced Prime Now, that into select areas in the US, that's free 2-hour shipping to Prime members. So, and this is quite a change to the supply chain, to go from 5 to 8 days to 2-hour shipping. It makes a huge impact on what's needed. And then in 2015, then we have in 27 metro areas, mainly around the US, there's free same-day delivery in the shipping. And we're innovating now with, we've got Amazon Key and Amazon Trunk, that, so keyless entry to your house for deliveries or into the trunk of your car. So it's constantly developing, and that customer experience is increasing. Hang on a sec. Yeah, so I'll just play you a video of how do we actually achieve this. Yeah, so this is looking inside one of Amazon's fulfillment centers. So we got 185 plus of these around the world, a lot more now. And the key part, well, one of the main technologies that we employed here is, rather than the pickers getting up and walking around the warehouse, finding the things to put in, the products actually come to them. So the pickers stand in one place and the warehouse reconfigures itself. And one startling statistic is that when you order something on Amazon.com, up until the product comes to the picker to put in the package, takes approximately 20 seconds. So there's a lot of machine learning involved there in terms of coordinating this warehouse so the right products are getting closer to the pickers before they order. So predicting that customer demand. So there's a lot of machine learning in that forecasting process involved. And there's interesting things happen that, when it starts raining or there's, rain predicted in advance, you'll start seeing, rain products like, umbrellas, raincoats appear closer to the pickers. Or, if there's a big sporting event, you'll see their paraphernalia actually coming closer to the pickers in the warehouse in advance of that event happening. So it requires a lot of prediction. I mean, it's all controlled by this robotics of these robots that sit under the shelves that manage it. So how does this apply to fresh produce? So Amazon also has a food delivery arm called Amazon Fresh in several countries, the US, and it's also in Europe. I personally was in Berlin for a couple of years and used it quite a lot. So you get your groceries delivered online. And so one application of technology we used is applying computer vision to look at the quality of the fruit and vegetables that come through, to rather than manually assessing the quality, to use computer vision to find if they're, in this case it's looking for bad strawberries. So this is the system, and it just, so here we have, so it tells you that 4 of these strawberries are bad and to discard them. And it's actually, from the picture, not very good quality here, but it's actually quite difficult to tell that they're, just by looking at them, that they're bad. And so it uses a spectroscopic camera to cover all the wavelengths to penetrate further into the fruit. So that was the key to this innovation. So it's about making the process a lot more efficient in this case. So we jump. And so finally, another innovation that we've applied in terms of the food supply chain is, if you've heard of it, it's the Amazon Go stores. So how these work is you take your mobile phone and scan a code, or there's an app actually that when you go in, and then you can pick up anything you want and walk out. So it changes the shopping experience for customers, and this is achieved by there's a lot of cameras. There's around 500 cameras in the roofs of each store, faced on everyone, and there's also sensors on the shelves as well that detect when people are picking things up.
Just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual card automatically.
And you see here that
So how does it work?
it can detect when you put something back and take it, it's just, it's quite
Self-driving cars.
it's quite robust to people trying to steal from it. And it actually took about 5 years to develop this. In terms of, there was a long testing period where for about 12 months there was a beta store where Amazon employees were only used it and were encouraged. There was this program called Steal from Amazon Go, where employees were encouraged to go and try to steal from the store in any way that they could. And one example is some employees came up with, they dressed in Pikachu outfits to try to confuse the system because they were identical, and it didn't work. It wasn't able to fool it. But in summary, so what Amazon has done over the past 20 years has been applying innovation and machine learning in particular to optimize this supply chain, but always focusing on the customer experience and improving that over time.
Right. Thanks, Eden. Now hand over to Ben from John Deere.
Good afternoon, everyone. So Ben Kelly from John Deere. I'm the Precision Ag Manager for Australia and New Zealand. So I wanted to talk to you today just about three things. So I want to talk about what's changing in agriculture. I want to give an example of what John Deere is doing and how we're using AI and big data. I think that makes it real. And I want to talk about collaboration as well. So everything we do at Deere really starts with the customer. And what we're seeing, what we're observing, obviously, is the customer with all this data is getting into a more complex environment and having to make more decisions. So we really want to help to, how can we simplify those decisions? And what we're seeing is they're moving from, I guess, in the past being more intuition or making decisions based on institutional knowledge that's been passed down through generation to generation, and really moving, I think, into the future. We're going to see it move towards more data-based analytics. So using this data to actually derive insights and present them back to the grower. Now, I don't think we're going to see the computers really take over, but we're going to see this type of decision-making then augmented by that institutional knowledge to improve the efficiency of decisions and the effectiveness of decisions. So, what's driving this? There's really 5 key areas that John Deere see are going to shape the future of agriculture. And the first one there is sensors. So our equipment is really becoming, a package of sensors that is moving through the field as it's executing tasks. Those sensors are generating data, and those data sets or database are really what is driving those artificial intelligence engines. So the artificial intelligence engines are then, really just making a decision with the information that they have, and then those decisions are going to be implemented via robotics. The connectivity piece is about really enabling this data to flow more freely, more efficiently, and then connecting in terms of in-field, connecting machines to communicate amongst each other about what they're doing and how they're doing it. So we've got sensors generating data, driving AI systems that are making decisions, and then we're implementing those decisions with robotics, and the connectivity is really creating an ecosystem, I guess, for how the machines will communicate. So I wanted to take you through an example. So if there's any farmers in the room, they'll know that harvest time is a very high pressure time, and you really need to understand, or you're really wanting to maximise quality. So making sure I'm harvesting the maximum quality I can from that field. You want to maximise the productivity of the harvester, and you want to do that throughout the whole day, as conditions will change from the morning to the middle of the day to the evening. Those conditions will change. So you want to make sure you're getting that quality and productivity right through that whole day. And you want to do it in an environment where really labour or skilled labour is becoming more difficult to find. So John Deere has developed a system called Combine Advisor, which is really a suite of technologies that's using big data and AI algorithms to make adjustments to that combine automatically throughout the day as conditions are changing to maximise quality and to maximise productivity of the machine. So we took this technology to a number of growers in Australia. And I just want to show you a quick video of, I guess, the impact that it had on them after experiencing what the technology could do. There should be some audio on this.
The concern is it's just going to be another header. For me to buy a new harvester, well, I'd go a second-hand one.
The way to think of this display is that's your setup, and then you can optimise it through ICA, and then you can automate the operation, and that's the beauty of this technology. Is when you've got someone who's not as skilled, you can get them in there and get them either up to speed quicker. We can now optimise the machine remotely. So say, for example, you've got an inexperienced operator on multiple machines across the paddock, you can remotely view their settings from your phone, from the My Operations app, send through an adjustment to the machine. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, so one of the boys is going to change.
Yeah, so
change something.
The remote view manager would like to make the following setting changes, so I can accept, or the client, so I hit accept. In addition, that app provides a snapshot of what's happening across your paddock, so you can see yield, logistics handling, you can see where you're up to in the paddock, and you can start optimising where you're going to be moving to, how much fuel's in the machine. You've got the machine now connected to the cloud, every 30 seconds streaming off the display.
The Combine Advisor automatically adjusting the settings on the run is very impressive. The intelligence of that and the technology that it takes to think like a trained, experienced harvester driver and adjust all them different things on the go is very impressive,
Live camera, that's my clean grain, and see how it's highlighting.
Oh wow.
From a sample perspective,
That's quite good there.
it's quite good there, yeah. You see the blue wheel spinning there, that's active terrain, so that's adjusting fan going up and down. Yep.
It did everything I thought it would do and better, and it's very user-friendly. And it's just so much more than just a harvester. It's about the management of that harvester, and it's about labour utilisation, and it's a really compelling case to justify spending money on a 7 Series. Really impressed.
And one key takeaway, what was something that sort of has burned a hole in your mind?
It's not just the harvester, it's the whole package. It's getting that next 5 or 10% capacity out of the machine and refining it, and that all comes down to operators. And if I can't surround myself with key operators, that machine will cover me. That was really important for us.
So I think a couple of things, probably at the start I was a bit quiet and missed it. There's a couple of things I want to highlight that customer said. He said, right at the start, my biggest concern is it's going to be another header. But then at the end, he finished after he experienced it for the day, he said that, if I can't surround myself with key operators, this machine's got me covered, and that's really important to me. So I think it really highlights the impact that, using data and AI systems to automate equipment can have for our farmers, especially in this area where we're getting, it's hard to find skilled labour. So we need to really change from thinking that data, move towards data is going to be the fuel that's going to drive agriculture, especially automation of equipment into the future, and it's not the exhaust. And in agriculture, we tend to think of a yield map as a great example, where we think of it as, it's the scorecard or the result of how we went for that year, how we performed for that year at growing a crop. Actually, in the future, when we think about autonomous vehicles, that's going to help us to build a profile, a data profile, a digital profile of the field, so that machines will be able to operate more effectively using that data. For example, if a combine knows where the low yielding and the high yielding areas are, we augment that with some NDVI or in-crop health data. We'll know what it should be yielding, and then that combine should be able to perform much more effectively throughout the field. So every pass is a learning opportunity, and the equipment is going to become smarter over time. So I think we all agree that big data is a part of ag in the future. I think the question we should be asking is, how do we maximise the value we can get from it? And the answer probably lies in collaboration. So I just wanted to share what John Deere is doing in that space. And so we've developed what we call the John Deere Operations Centre, and that is where all the data collected on our equipment will flow. So the customer owns that account, and they're able to control where they share that data, who they share that with. It could be their John Deere dealer, it could be their agronomist or their financial advisor, or it could be a third-party software company who's providing them with a service, localised service. So right now, with that platform, we're up to about 110 different companies have joined that platform. It's free to join for those companies, and it's really about trying to enable more effective decision-making process, I guess, for customers. So I guess this looks at why we're doing this and taking this approach. We're traditionally providing equipment and technology. We have our dealers there to support the customers with that. We have third-party companies out there as well to support these customers, and then we'll have, generally a farmer would have an advisor. If I can get the slide to come up as well. So why are we doing these things? Well, really, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So we think by combining all these together and enabling third parties, enabling farm advisors as well, we're going to deliver a greater value to that customer. So I just wanted to finish by also talking about data and I guess John Deere's approach to customer data. We really have three key areas that we look at that we want to call out. And the first one is control. And so we believe that customers ultimately have control of their data and they can choose who to share it with and how they want to use that. The second one is transparency. So we want to be transparent about how we're using customer data. We also want to provide value to the customer by using their data. And I think the Combine Advisor example I gave with the harvester and really creating a more efficient machine is what we're trying to do with that data. So ultimately, we're building trust, and we can do that by enabling customers to have control, being transparent about how we're using it, and being focused on delivering value with it. So if you want to know more, you can go to our website at johndeere.com/trust to understand more. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll hand it across to Harry.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben, and thanks everyone. Thanks for the invitation from Global Table to talk today. Probably reminded me after when I was at university, I spent a summer on a John Deere harvester harvesting grass seed, and things have moved a long way since then. The first morning, the boss sent me out to grease the header and came back 5 minutes later and said they're all done. And I found about 6 grease nipples, and apparently there was 35, so he sent me back out. And then I wanted to see how fast it went, so I had a couple of Kiwi guys I was challenging how fast we get this old rocket going, and I ended up, the back wheel came off, and anyway, I think technology, it's probably, it's amazing how far it's come, and one of the benefits would be to get rid of drivers like me, and that's probably why I wasn't invited back the following summer. I said to my boss, do you need me next year? He said, no, I think we're good. And my nickname was Drum Block Harry because I spent half the summer under the John Deere. So that's why I'm in cattle. And the less machinery you have, the better probably. But no offence to Ben, but there's people that do it a lot better and a lot smarter than we do. It's probably an interesting day, coming days like today. I feel as a beef farmer that we're just under the pump. And I thought I might have security out the back to get me in here, the way media and people are looking at us beef people. My kids come home from school and just give me a rev up all the time about how bad we are and how we're destroying the planet and the environment and how much water data we use to produce beef and how much carbon. And so that's part of the journey I'll explain, because my kids hammer me all the time, and got a letter from my daughter's school yesterday to say that they're not to eat beef, or they're having a beef-free day on Thursdays now, and so I just feel like I'm getting hammered. I'll just probably go back, but it's a family business, 50 years old. My job is really a farmer, but I'm a geneticist. I've got to be good at soils, plants, agronomy, finance, marketing. I'm terrible at a lot of it, but I have to pretend that I'm good at some of these things. But the bits that I'm really passionate about are probably genetics. To me is ultimately we produce bulls. So we produce commercial bulls for farmers Australia-wide. So each bull, he gets about 40 girlfriends a year and hopefully gets 37 or 38 pregnant. So my job is to breed better bulls for our commercial customers, whether in King Island, Flinders, Tassie, and the boys go as far as, in the Barkly Tablelands, Queensland, and we have farms in WA as well. We've sent bulls to Russia. We've got about 1,000 bulls running around in Russia, and they're massive John Deere users, those boys. And we've sent bulls and females to China as well. So and we work collaboratively with US partners. So just some quick overview stuff. There's about 26 million. It's probably easier to email this sort of stuff out, but 26 million cattle in Australia. Most of them in Queensland. So we're like the Mexicans here. They just think we're hobby farmers. The big boys, the big hats are in the north. So that they dictate a lot, but it's also where a lot of the opportunities for change are, because it's pretty slow moving up there. Australia produced about 2.2 million tonnes of beef. I think the US are about 11 and Brazil's about 9. So we're a significant player. I think we're the 4th largest exporter. I've just got there, I'll touch on that, but beef production's responsible for about 5% of greenhouse gases too. So while that's large and significant, we've got to keep things in perspective. So I think methane production from sheep and cattle are about 2/3 of Australia's agricultural greenhouse emissions. So they're significant, and there's lots we can do about it. My wife said don't put too much on the slides because no one will read it, so I just put a photo there. You see the photo, like part of genetics. Like as a young geneticist, I spent a couple of times in the UK training old farmers how to push buttons and set up, computerise their systems, and then I spent a couple of years in the US. And one of the things, marbling is marbling is the muscle. This is the fat within the muscle. We call it the taste fat. So you see within that photo the fine fat. That's the stuff that gives you the flavour and makes the beef more tender. The outside stuff, we call it subcutaneous fat. It's the waste fat. So really what I've been doing for 25 years is breeding cattle that have more flavour, more juiciness, better beef, more efficiently, and less of the stuff on the outside. So this little boy, he was 2 years old. He's a marble score 6, so he's a good example of what we're trying to produce, or what our customers generally are trying to produce. Because we're here to talk about big data, onto a bit of skiting here. So since 1970, we've registered. This is our 50th year. So the Angus Society wanted to come and give me a big ribbon at the Melbourne show next year, and I said, not interested in that, but how about just helping me with some data? And so we've registered 43,000 registered Angus cattle over the last 50 years. It would be more than that if you include this year. We have to go out and catch these little suckers when they're born. People talk about big data. This is like being in an African sort of wildlife park. When you get trying to catch a baby and mum's coming at you 100 miles an hour, it's not a good feeling. And my brother had some quite serious injuries. So it's quite a risky thing capturing this data, and we've caught 35,000 little suckers. We've recorded 33,000 weaning weights. So this is part of what we capture. The reason why we're collecting birth weight information is because the cruelest thing that you can do to any cow is to let her die with, called dystocia, calving. So even though we use science, natural selection plays a big part of what we do. So I feel very responsible. Like I get the call on Sunday morning, firstly when the bull's broken his penis, but the other thing is when they have to pull a calf, because I'm the geneticist, it's always my fault. So I'm very responsible, even though genetics is only part of it. When it goes south, it's my fault. So we've also, in the 90s, we did some really good research on, we can ultrasound live animals for their loin muscle, we can measure their ribeye, and also we did the evaluations that we can also record the marbling intramuscular fat. So that revolutionised how we could collect data. Instead of having collect information on slaughter cattle, we can do it on live cattle. And all that gets fed into a national genetic evaluation system. Let's see what we got here. This is just an overall grain index. So there's actually 18 different traits that we measure and monitor in our cattle and can compare across Australia and New Zealand. The US, Canada have their own systems which we understand, but this is you can see the top line is us. This is just an overall, GRN is heavy grain index, so it's an overall rating for how good these animals are for the production of high quality beef. The gap between the green line and the breed is about 10 years. So basically we stay about 10 years in, and that's my job, to stay in front. Like, things keep changing, competitors keep catching us. These are some of the traits and how we've gone. You see the first one is birth weight. So we're below breed average because of that calving ease. We're above breed average. They grow faster than average. The cows are smaller than average. Cows are like cars, they eat. They produce a lot of methane. We want moderate, efficient cows, not giraffes. So we weigh everything. Marbling is the intramuscular fat. If you look at how far since the mid-90s when we started to really focus on this, massive gap there, a lot more muscle, and there's the index. So these are the big data stuff we talk about. We also can compare, like, that is the trends. This is how we can compare against our competitors. So marbling, look at the spread between in meat quality what our clients are doing. You think, what's your plan, guys? What are you doing? Obviously they don't care. We're very disciplined. You can see we're very focused on meat quality, and this proves it. Still hard to convince your average commercial guy that they keep coming back saying we don't get paid on meat quality. But in effect, that's what drives demand for Angus beef. But there is a big disconnect between this and the consumer, and it's the same with our carbon footprint. There's a massive disconnect. There's some of the other distribution curves show where we sit. So I can look up on my phone every individual animal, know how he compares with Frank's bulls in Queensland or New Zealand. So it's pretty cool. Not many people use it. Not enough people use it smartly, would be. And this is so we've spent 50 years breeding more efficient cattle, and the last 20 years, big focus on meat quality, using best. My job as a geneticist is really to find the best 8 bulls in the world. Don't care who's got it, whether he's in New Zealand, neighbour, in our own herd. That's my job, find it. And then I go and have to do semen deals, trading deals at the moment, bringing semen in from mainly the US and some Australian bulls, and then I put them in my suitcase and go to Western Australia and inseminate cows. So part of it is identifying the better bulls, and then we multiply them. So AI to me is not artificial intelligence, it's artificial insemination. It's not a great job, but someone's got to do it. This is more sexy technology. This is stuff that we've been... GrowSafe is a Canadian company that specialises in feed efficiency, and there's 2 parts to it. One is where you measure how much the animals eat. So that's in the bottom photo there. They've all got electronic tags around the plastic rim around that trough. Every second it's reading it. So it knows exactly how much that animal's eating. And when the next one pushes him out of the way, it records that. So every day, get exactly how much these boys eat, or girls. In this case, it's boys. At the top, when they drink, it's weighing the partial body. So we get 1 part's what they eat, 1 part's what they weigh. So it's pretty cool. And, we talk about engaging next generation. My son would walk past this pen, and there'd be 4 dead ones in there. He wouldn't even notice. But he's fantastic on the data. He starts looking through it and said, "What's this animal, Dad?" He's losing 1.3 kilos a day. I said, "Well, here's his number, go and find him." So he goes down there and finds this one, and he's got a sore eye, So you can actually pick up animals that are sick or lost their appetites before you can visually. So it's pretty amazing. And, it's probably like the John Deere stuff, that the next generation is so much more savvy with technology, and me and us as an industry have to find ways to engage them. Otherwise, I'll be on John Deere tractors and won't be worrying about cows. So there's each second. So there's 8 million bits of data that go from these data recorders into a data collector in the shed. Then they go to our head office in the caravan, and each night that goes through the NBN satellite to Canada, and they sort through it, and they help us and I say to them, I don't want to be wading through spreadsheets. So what I'm working with them is real-time management reports, so I can find out whether I'm in Western Australia or wherever I'm in the world, I can tap in and see what these animals are doing and monitor the system. So each set of animals that are born at a similar time, they spend about 70, 75 days in these units. And that's how long we need to get accurate genetic predictions. These animals, we analyse this data in the GrowSapes global system. So that's analysed with, at the moment, 235,000 animals in that data set. When we look at it, there's $100 difference between animals, even in the 70 days, they're in. So there's huge financial differences. There's massive difference between what animals eat. Running out of time. Right, these are some of the other systems where the data, I'll leave that on the presentation. Just let me finish on the methane side of it. A big part of what we've got the potential to do is dramatically reduce our carbon footprint. So we're going to focus on carbon emissions intensity, which is how much methane they produce per kilo of beef. So a lot of the stuff you see with branded beef is about offsets, and to me that's just passing your baggage to someone else. There's huge opportunities here to through genetics, through management systems, through feeding products, to dramatically reduce our and that's the big focus. So we're actually going to measure it. A lot of what you read, including MLA, it's motherhood statements. This is actual real data, so what animals eat, and the data we get from this is highly correlated with your methane outputs. Okay, I'll finish on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Sorry, we'll have to live with the remaining time, but then my name is Sabit. I'm a solutions architect with Alibaba Cloud. Let's not get into those things. Sorry. Okay. So one thing that I just wanted to highlight here is that we were talking about big data. So anything that you would have to deal with data and then finally come up with some kind of an AI platform, it all depends on how much data you're able to collect. Sorry. Okay, so I'll just spend like a minute on this slide. So Alibaba, or the platform that you might have heard is actually an e-commerce giant based in China. But one single day in every year, like 11th of November, we do a Singles Day festival. So on that one single day, we sell everything possible in this world, right from private islands, Ferraris, Maseratis, and all these things. And last year, we did almost $32 billion of sales in that one single day. But that's not the dollar value that is critical here. What matters really behind the scenes is the data that we get to collect on that one single day. So you can see that, like, the sheer amount of data that gets collected behind the scenes. So for the successful creation of any artificial intelligence brain is the availability of proper data. So once you have got a lot of data, that's when you can fine-tune your brain to adapt to new incoming data, new patterns, and all those things, and finally create something called an actionable insights. So what we have done is actually, with our experience of dealing with data over the last 20 years, like how Jack Ma likes to call it, we have created something called an ET brain. He calls it the Alibaba intelligence, but it's actually a brain that we created from all the data that we get to process on a daily basis. So this ET brain is actually a generic AI brain, or we call it the actionable insights brain, which is used to deal with problems in multiple domains. So agriculture is actually one domain that we are quite strong on, and getting this brain to work. So just in simple terms, what it means is that it has got access to a lot of data, we could, tag the data, come up with some models that will get through the data, and then finally see, okay, using this particular data, what kind of patterns that you can come up with, and then what kind of actionable insights can you create out of it. So that's it. So behind the scenes, there's something called an ET brain that we have created, which is going to help consumers solve their problems. So what I'm going to do is to talk just about, sorry, this is a bit slow, and then there's time constraints as well. So just deal with it, sorry. Okay. So for the successful creation of any AI systems, it's all about the workflow that you can go get the data through, like, collect the data, process the data, clean the data, and properly find out patterns out of the data, and then apply this data on a particular problem domain. So we have applied ET Brain in farming, and also in the entire agri-tech space, like, livestock management and things like that. So okay. So this is like one simple use case that we have applied the ET Brain successfully. So right from, like, the inception of a farming use case to collecting the produce, and then getting into the stores, and then getting consumers to consume the food. There's AI applications in the entire chain. So when we saw the seeds, like, there are cameras who capture the growth of the seeds and see that, okay, is the seed getting enough nutrients, and are we putting in enough water for that particular plants to grow? Are there any kind of diseases that you could recognize from the camera that is looking at the growth of the plants? And then when you apply this on a large scale, like, using drones, using satellite imagery and all these things, what you can do, you can actually get more, produce out of this one, like getting solutions to the problem right from the start of it, rather than, like, getting the produce to be deteriorating over a period of time. You have now access to, reapplying solutions to the problems that might come in the production. So applying ET Brain on the farming is actually multitude of it. Like, so you can, sorry. So it's using various data sources that we have access to, like it could be the weather patterns, the temperature, humidity, video that drones that has visited the farmlands, which is sending in, and then the production record of this produce. So applying all these things, and then on top of it, getting the AI brain to work on these inputs, you might be getting much more actionable insights. So, and a brain which doesn't do anything is not of no use. So that's why we like to call AI the actionable insights, not just artificial intelligence. When you really get to apply the intelligence, that's when it becomes something like actionable, and there's a result out of it. So you can see there's various applications for it, like image recognition based crop monitoring. So there's actually a brain which is looking at the crops and saying, okay, is the crop doing good? Like, is there anything that you can do to make sure that, there's enough growth in the crops and all those things? There's an analysis platform to ensure that, the produce that is done is dealing with the changing weather patterns and all those things. And then finally, it's a full crop lifecycle management, right from the inception to getting into the table. So when you combine the power of this particular brain to something like the full lifecycle chain that we have within Alibaba, so you might get, like, much more sustainable products in there. Okay, so the other applications that I just want to touch base is the livestock farming, where the same brain which gets applied on a different set of data sources. We have created something called a livestock farming solution, which is one great application of Alibaba's ET Brain back in China, and we have actually had successful use cases of this one outside of China as well. So a couple of things would be tagging livestock, like, getting an image recognition, and then see, like, based on the patterns and all the things of a livestock, you could tag the livestock, you could track them, you could see what the livestock is doing, like, what exactly are the phases it goes through by just, the way the livestock behaves. Probably can you detect some kind of a disease that's getting into the animal and things like that. So there's many applications that you can think about, getting that AI brain to work for you. Okay, so this, like, early disease diagnosis that has been successfully applied. So these are like real life use cases that we have got our ET brain to work for in many customer solutions. One last thing that I just wanted to touch base before. Okay. So these are like, any, again, abnormal event detection and alerting feature that we have in our livestock management solution, which is like, detecting whether like, a particular livestock gets out of the fences or like, there's an intrusion that's happening in the farms and all those things. But there are generic use cases of the AI, but one successful thing, okay. So pig farming is actually very popular in China. I'm pretty sure like, there are a lot of consumers for pig meat as well. But what we have done is actually to get the AI brain to not just track the pigs, but even use facial recognition on pigs. Trust me, it works in China. So just by looking at the pigs and then it's kind of gestures the pig come up with, it's actually size, weight and all these things, they could significantly, with almost like 98% confidence that it can differentiate one pig from another. Like I don't know how it happens really behind the scenes, but it's possible. So what it can do is actually then it can trace and track a particular pig from its like, childhood to the slaughterhouse and all those things, and then it can actually trace and track what kind of growth it goes through and all those things. Okay, that's it. Just because of the time constraint, I had to rush through these things. So over to you.
Thanks, Abid.
Thank you very much. Good day, everyone. I'm the last thing keeping you from lunch. And I'm Max. I'm the managing director of Winnow. Winnow is a company that developed AI tools to be able to solve a problem in professional kitchen, which is food waste. So that's what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today. And first, I want to introduce you a few people, actually, if that thing works. This is Kristen. She works with IKEA in Eindhoven. When you think of IKEA, you might be thinking about furniture, but they actually serve around 650 million meals every year. And they use data to be more efficient doing this. This is Lizzie. She works for Morrison, which is a supermarket chain in the UK. They produce around 73,000 fish and chips every week. And they're also using big data to be able to control this. And this is one of my good friends, Chef Puchon, who is from Mauritius and lives in Bali and works at Club Med there. And working in the luxury industry is also using big data to be able to reduce food waste. So what does those very, very different kitchens all have in common? They are recognizing that there's an opportunity to be more efficient in the kitchen and not waste food. And by understanding what goes into the bin, we actually can make better decisions. And that's why we created Winnow, because we believe that food is too valuable to waste. And actually technology can help us change that. All right. I'm going to repeat a few numbers that you probably heard many, many, many times in the past 2 days, but I think we all need to remind that 1/3 of all the food that is grown right now is going to waste, and that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense for our planet, but also it doesn't make any sense for our businesses. So if we put it into money, it's $1 trillion that is wasted every year. To put it into perspective, it's around 1% of global GDP. So when we look at it, it doesn't make sense as businesses, it doesn't make sense as human. So how can we be better at it? And what we're missing is data. So now if we could use AI to be more efficient doing this, what it would do, it will give a better accuracy of the data of what goes into our bin. We don't necessarily have to go and dive with our hands to try to understand what went there. It would make easy for people to use it, because in kitchens are very busy environments, so we don't necessarily have time to monitor everything that goes into the bin. And lastly, it will really save time for chefs to do what it's supposed to do. It's cook food, and cook good food, and respect the ingredients. Okay, so let's see if that starts. There we go. So introducing Winnow Vision. So we're using cameras to be able to go into the kitchens linked to tablets and a scale that will be on the floor. What it will happen is when I throw something into the bin, it will activate the camera that will automatically look into the bin and recognize and quantify what was wasted. So it will be able to look at what was the last picture and the previous one, compare the difference, compare the weight, and look at it. So for example, here it will understand that there is meatballs, that's from IKEA, and we'll be able to say, like, I think it's meatballs, but it could be other options. So what it will help us really is to segregate really everything that goes into the bin, quantify it, and feed it back to anyone who needs to understand those information. It could be the chef, but it could be also at a regional level. I can understand which one of my kitchens is producing more bacon or more eggs and why it's thrown away, and who is doing better and how we can compare all of this. Alright, that should start the video. There we go. So, a path to automation, what we have to understand about AI is the machine is only as good as the way we trained it. So the way it works in our kitchen is everything will be monitored, but at the beginning we need to teach the system what is it. So we had to build a full taxonomy of food, which was very interesting to understand, so like that we have a good base, and then we do annotations on everything that goes into the bin to be able to really have the right data together. What it helps us is to understand also like the behaviors of customers. So when we work with hotels, we can understand the different behaviors of people coming from different countries at different time of the year, different seasons. That will all help providing better offer, but also like waste less and increase profits, which is always a good thing in the industry because margins are pretty tight. This is not working. There we go. We will feed back every day directly to our customer, give them an overview of how much that costs them, where are the key opportunities, and what they can do with it. So on top of providing the data, and we help them through consulting to get better at implementation of ordering, of processing of food, menu engineering, etc., etc. So basically what we want to say is what gets measured gets managed. And we see a direct impact for businesses that we work, that is profit. So we reduce in average by 60% food waste in professional kitchen in value. So that's directly transformed into a food profit that can go up to 2 to 8%. So it's doing the right thing, but it's also turning an ROI quickly. So we have a lot of companies that were not afraid to go public working with us and put targets. So this is some of our clients. So we can see we can save from 10,000 to 250,000 plus in one locations by monitoring food waste. So there's a value doing it. And then we saw like people like IKEA, like Accor Group, like IAG going public with us saying we're going to reduce our food waste by 50% by 2025. And that's just proof that using data and providing those things and those tools to large corporations will actually allow them and not be afraid to go public. Like we're committing to reduce food waste because we have the tool and we have the data to be able to track it. We are now working in 1,400 kitchens across the world. We have offices in seven countries. We're working with 40 plus countries around the world. And just what it says is like we founded the company 6 years ago with the simple belief that food was too valuable to waste. And we saw that there was no border to this. It's not a question like which country is going to do something. We all have to do our part, and we see that there is no resistance across the world to just say, yeah, we have a problem, but we can see it as an opportunity and we can do something about it. And what we do about it is, as of today, we save more than $30 million to our clients every year. But this is just scratching the surface. So we went public a few days ago saying that we're going to save $1 billion by 2025 to our clients, and this is our goal. Why we're monitoring into money? Because unfortunately, that's what drives change. And something that we're very proud of right now, we're saving one meal every second. So that's another way we can be proud of what we do. And one of the objectives for us is to get much better at this and just saving like 10, 100 meals every second, because too many people are going hungry and we produce enough food to feed everyone. So there's a point to all of this. Food is something that we all have in common. Food is our past, is our present, is our future. Food is really something that links us together, and we don't want to let go to waste. So that's why we really believe that we could develop so many more technology and use AI not in a scary way, but in a good way to really solve problems that doesn't make sense to anyone. So I just want to say, I want everyone to join us in the belief that food is too valuable to waste and help the world show that. Thank you very much.